What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Figuring Shit Out podcast, or the F.S.O pod. It's your girl, Leah, and today we're going to be getting into a topic that I have really been paying more attention to over the last few years, and I think it's something that is really important, and yeah, I'm just excited to give my little 2 cents on it. But before we do get into that, I feel like I've given quite a few disclaimers in the last couple episodes, but I'm gonna give another disclaimer. It is really, really hot where I live, and our house gets really hot, especially upstairs in the bedrooms and stuff like that. And we do not have AC, so my room gets extremely hot. So not only do I have my desk fan, my tower fan going, I also have my window right open. I keep it open all day because it gets hot and your girl needs some air circulating up in here. I am going to be doing everything I can, and I'm going to do my best to make sure I try to quiet that background as best as possible so you guys don't have to really hear that. But I just wanted to let you guys know, real quick, if my background sounds a little bit different, it's because, my fans are going. And you might hear some planes and stuff. I kind of live by an air base. I don't live too far from that, so we can hear the planes sometimes and stuff. So again, I just wanted to let y'all know. Yeah, man, as usual, I'm just sharing my personal opinion and my perspective that nobody asked for and probably nobody cares about, but I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway. If you're a returning listener or you're hearing me for the first time, I want to start it off with saying thank you. I appreciate you for tuning in. So go ahead, grab your snacks, grab your loofah with your soap, put your feet up, whatever you do when you're listening to your favorite podcast. Sit back and go ahead and listen to me talk my ish. All right, y'all. So, as I said in the intro, I'm actually pretty excited to talk about today's topic, and that is a topic of perception. It is something that I have become a lot more aware of, and something that I've paid a lot more attention to in the past years. I said few earlier, but I think it's been a lot longer than just a few years. I've come to realize how important perception is. And I feel like it's kind of like a double-edged sword. This is one of those topics that I feel like there's always a new kind of pinpoint that you can have, you know what I mean? But for the sake of today's episode, I want to keep it pretty short, pretty simple. So I don't really want to get too deep into perception, but I would like to still kind of give my little 2 cents. So I am going to start it off with the definition of not just perception, but I'm going to start off with the definition of to perceive. And that is to attain awareness or understanding of, or to regard as being such. So I think it's very important to understand that our perception is our perspective, and no perspective is the same. Obviously. I mean, you may have friends or families that, you guys kind of see eye to eye, or you guys agree on certain things and stuff like that. But no one's perspective is the exact same as the next person. And that's kind of the reason why the world is dope, because we all see things differently. We all perceive things differently. We all understand things differently. And we need that in the world. We all don't need to think alike and feel the exact same way and have the same mindset about everything. Like, that's boring and that's trash and that's very, very unrealistic. Right. And then real quick, I want to jump into the definition of perception. And that is a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, or a mental impression. I feel like at its core, I think perception is, obviously it's a good thing, but I do feel like it can cause problems because everything is centered around it. And I don't feel like we really truly understand that, like, for example, we say it all the time, perception is key. I also say it all the time. Perception is key. Like, for example, if you go out with some coworkers after work, right? It's a last minute, like, hey, we're going to go to happy hour. And you're like, oh, cool. Yeah, bet. Right. And let's say, obviously, you're wearing your work uniform, and let's say your shirt has your company logo, right? And you don't have any other clothes, and you don't have, like any undershirt or anything like that. You don't have any spare clothes in your car. Let's say you live an hour and a half away plus traffic, you know what I mean? So you're just like, okay, damn, like, all right, cool. Like, I don't really have time to head home. I don't have any extra clothes, but I want to go hang out with everyone, spend time with everyone. I'm just going to go. Right now, you're well within your right to go out with your coworkers. You're well within your right to go to the bar or wherever you guys go. You're well within your right to have a drink. You're well within your right to take a shot, to play some pool, to do whatever, right? You're off the clock. It's 6:00, 6:30. You know what I mean? Y'all got off at 5. It's, woo, it's the weekend. You chilling, right? However, that's probably not going to be perceived that well. If you show up to a bar in your work uniform, even if it's just a shirt with a logo on it, that don't look good. that doesn't look good, right? Because now you have the public's perception of not only you, but now your company is like, dang, man, like they just, what, these people just be going out and getting drunk or taking shots? Like, that's crazy. People might start recording you and be like, yo, look at this employee from so-and-so that, they're getting messed up with their friends, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, and again, you're not wrong in anything. And in reality, you can't even really, at least I don't think so legally. I'm not a lawyer or like an HR person. So I don't think you could get in trouble if, you go out after work or something and you don't have like a spare change of clothes or something, or if you like, live too far and you can't make it home or anything like that. So you do like, I don't know, maybe you can, but still, like you're not in the wrong for, letting off some steam and just having a drink. Or even if you're not drinking, even if you're just drinking water and ginger ale all day, but you're still hanging out with your friends, your coworkers, they're having drinks, they're taking shots, everyone's just having a good time, right? The perception of that is going to be bad. And I think the crazy thing is, we have to understand that we are all living through our own perceptions of life. And, we can't ridicule others for how they may perceive something, like with the work happy hour example. You can't be mad if the public is like, what the heck, or if someone's looking at you funny because you're out at a bar taking shots and you're representing your company, like you're representing your company, you're in a company work shirt. Like, what do you, like, you can't be mad at that. Right. And no one is wrong in that. No one's wrong in their perception. Like, if someone sees that, they're not automatically like, oh my gosh, but 9 times out of 10, most people aren't going to try to, think about the other factors of that. No one's going to sit there and look at you in your work shirt, taking a shot or hanging out with your friends, whatever, drinking a beer, whatever, right? No one's going to look at you and be like, you know what? Dang, they're in their work shirt. You know what? Oh man, maybe they live really far away from work. Or dang, maybe it was like a last minute thing. Maybe they didn't get a chance to go get a change of clothes. Maybe they don't keep a change of clothes in their shirt and or in their car. Maybe they didn't really have a choice but to come out in, their work uniform. Maybe they just got off. Like, maybe they got off late, whatever. Like, no one's going to think like that in reality. Everyone's just going to see what they see and then just go off of that. Right. Which to me, I feel like that is more so kind of the human nature aspect of it. I think for the most part, most people go through life that way, where we just see something and then we perceive it that way and we come to understand it a certain way. However, I don't believe that that's necessarily right. I think we should always be mindful and aware of the fact that we don't know what's going on, and our perception, while yes, it is a reality, it's not the only reality, and it's not fact. Like, our perception is not factual. Like, the way that I perceive something does not mean this is exactly how it happened. This is exactly, this is the only right way. This is what it is. Like, the way that I see it and the way that I understand it is exactly what it is. No. You know what I mean? Because again, I may perceive it to be this way, but someone else may perceive it to be another way, or they may understand it completely differently than I do. So, our perception is our own reality, and I think you have to be conscious, and it's important to be conscious and aware of it, and, just be mindful of how you carry yourself. And I think the way you carry yourself in public, the way you represent yourself, is very, very important. You cannot change how people see things. You can't change how people choose to understand something, but you can be as intentional as you can about how you get your message across, to try to eliminate as much confusion or, well, I think this is what it is. No, like, you know what I mean? But again, that's my opinion personally. And yeah, again, perception is key. it's very important, but I think it's something that we kind of always have to constantly be thinking about and kind of make ourselves aware of. I find myself doing that all the time. Like I'll even be at work and, we'll be driving and we'll see something and I'll be like, what? And like I'll perceive something and I'll be like, oh, dang, I can't believe they're doing that. And then I'll try to like correct myself and be like, damn, okay, you know what? Like, I don't know what that situation is. I don't know what's going on. So before I just start, not even feeling some kind of way like that, but, before I kind of form my opinion, let me be aware of the fact that, okay, like this is how I'm taking it. This is how it looks to me, but that might not be what it is. Like, and again, it's still hard to do that. Sometimes you're just going to perceive something the way that you perceive it. Like your perception is just going to be what your perception is. And there's no change in that. But I just think, it's something that we kind of have to be a bit more intentional with and more understanding of in regards to others. Like if you see someone, like I said, if you see someone out and maybe it's that happy hour example, if you're out with friends or something and maybe you see someone and wearing, a work shirt and you see them having a drink or taking a shot, just try to understand that, hey, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what they got going on. And I'm gonna leave it at that. You know what I mean? But it is hard. Like I said, I feel like perception is kind of automatically, like it's automatically there. We automatically, kind of form our opinions based off of what we see immediately. As soon as we see something, we're like immediately forming our opinion, right? Or we're immediately like, oh, damn, well, this must be that, or damn, that must be how it is. You know what I mean? When in reality, that's not it. And another thing I've also learned too, when it comes to perception, is that base your perception off of what you're told too. Like, yes, obviously be observant, watch, pay attention, but, try not to maneuver through life if you don't have the answer, in the sense of like, if, like if you're going through something with somebody, if you're going through something with somebody and, like y'all have talked it out or something and they've blatantly been like, okay, hey, no, this is what it is. This is how I feel. This is exactly, what I'm going to be doing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then yeah, obviously your perception is going to be whatever your perception is based off of that, right? But like if there hasn't been any like communication, if you're just noticing certain things or you're seeing certain things, obviously you're going to perceive them a certain way, but just remember and understand that this is just your perception at the moment. You don't have any hard facts. You don't have any real communication about what's going on, or you don't have like you're just going off of how you're perceiving things, and I do feel like that can be extremely detrimental. And I feel like that also plays a part in why and how we get in our heads a lot, because we may go through something and we start to see things a certain way, or we start to perceive something and be like, oh, well, this person's acting like this, or this person's saying this, or this person's doing that. And then we start to, that's how we're perceiving it, where our perception is this, this, and this, when in reality, they ain't even worried about you. They could have A, B, C, D, E, F, G going on, or they're focused on this or they're focused on that, but because of the situation, you're taking it a certain kind of way. And you're not wrong for that, but you also just have to be really mindful about how you maneuver through those different situations and experiences, So yeah, y'all, this is this is kind of a little quick, little episode. I didn't really have too much to say on this one today. I might come back on it at some point, maybe, probably. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of very to the point. But if you stuck with your girl and you listened to the whole thing, I appreciate you again. It truly means a lot. And yeah, man. So with that, we gonna go ahead and we gonna end it with that, man. So live love and love life. Be kind. Until next time, y'all.